All right, you guys, scones. So, scones are very similar to biscuits. The difference between biscuits and scones is scones have more sugar. So I think you guys will like scones. So I'm gonna show you guys just a really basic cinnamon and sugar one. You'll want to get a bowl big enough to hold all your ingredients. So I have my flour, so a bowl and a sifter. My flour has gone almost through the sifter. I have my baking powder, which is the leavener. Remember what helps it rise. I have salt for flavor, and then sugar for flavor, and it'll give it some color, right? So I'm gonna sift this just to make sure there's no lumps or clumps left over. Make sure the salt goes through, and that's that. So just like with the biscuits, we're gonna grate the butter. So grating the butter is gonna give it that flaky, laminated texture. You wanna work with your butter really cold. Roll your butter around in a little bit of flour. That'll help so it doesn't melt in your hands. And then you're gonna grate it on the large holes of the cheese grater, just like the biscuits. Once it starts to melt a little bit in your hands, just roll it around again. And then once you get down to like these last little pieces that are a little big, don't worry about it, just chunk them in. I usually take a little bit of flour from the bowl and try to get out the rest of that butter, just because the butter is what's gonna make them soft and delicious. We wanna get all that butter into our scones. So the flour will help get that off of there. It'll also help you clean it later. So then tap it on here just in case there's anything left. Okay, so now I'm just gonna fluff this up. Make sure all that butter is coated in the flour. Once the butter is coated in the flour, you want it to be larger chunks of butter. You don't want the butter to completely disappear into the flour. You don't want to rub it right into the flour. You'll see recipes that say pea-sized pieces. That's kind of what you're looking for, almost a little bit bigger. So just like that. And then I'm gonna have my cold half and half. So I'm not gonna add all of it. I'm gonna add about that much, about 3/4 of a cup, and then I'm gonna start kneading. The reason why I don't wanna add it all is because different things play a role in how much fat you're gonna need, like humidity in the air, or if it's raining outside. So every time, or the way you measure it. So I don't want you to add it all and then be like, oh shoot, my dough is so wet. So I'm gonna add a little bit more. So remember, it's really important to measure things properly. So we'll go over again, we'll go over how to measure things properly quite a few times, but make sure you're measuring them properly, looking at eye level, sorry, for your liquid ingredients, and then dry ingredients that you're not packing it down, you're scraping it off, things like that. Okay, so once it's come into a dough, you're gonna start to knead it in the bowl. So I have a big piece of dough and then some crumbles at the bottom. So I'm just gonna pick it up and knead it into itself until I pick up all those little scragglers. So just like that, few little scragglers left at the bottom. Make sure you guys are doing your dishes. Then I'm just gonna pick it up, and as I'm picking it up and kneading it, I'm gonna kind of push all this other stuff into it and pick it up and push it down, pick it up, push it down. So once it starts, and I'll do this about 5 times just to make sure that it's all together on the table. Okay, so check that out, pretty nice. Then I am gonna take a little bit of dusting flour, just a little bit of flour, and put it down on the table. Once it's down on the table, I'm gonna flatten it out a little bit, and then I'm gonna take a rolling pin and I'm gonna roll it to about 1/2 inch rectangle. As I'm rolling it, I'm gonna push it into a rectangle shape and then roll. And you want to keep picking it up and making sure it's not stuck to the table. You have enough flour under there. If it sticks, then just pick it up, dust a little flour, and then keep doing what you're doing. Okay, so a rectangle, feeling pretty good about it. Remember, 1/2 a knuckle is 1/2 inch. Looks pretty good, about 1/2 inch. So now I'm gonna take some of my milk cream half and half, whatever it is. And I'm gonna brush it on the top, or brush it on the surface of the dough. Then I'm gonna take some cinnamon and sugar. So I had cinnamon and sugar mixed here at the school, but you'll need like 2 tablespoons of sugar and maybe a quarter teaspoon of cinnamon. And then I'm gonna put the cinnamon and sugar down. So it can only take so much. If you just clump it on there and put a ton on there, it's just gonna shoot out the outside. So just put it till it sticks. So then you're gonna take the top layer, you're gonna fold it over like this, and you're gonna press it down. Then you're gonna take your rolling pin and you're gonna roll it like 2 or 3 times until it's about 1 inch. And it looks like a book. So then, with that guy, you're gonna take a knife, or if you have one of these at home, this is a butter cutter, and you're gonna cut it in half. If you're cutting with a knife, make sure you're cutting on a surface that's appropriate. So if you get to this point and you're gonna use a knife, then take this, put it onto a cutting board, and cut it. So you're gonna cut it in half, lengthwise, and then you're gonna cut it into triangles. So triangle. And you want them to be the same size. Remember, if they look the same, they'll cook the same. And then you're gonna put them onto a baking sheet. You wanna give them enough room, enough space between them to grow. These guys are mostly gonna grow up rather than out, but they will grow out a little bit. So I'm gonna probably need another sheet. Maybe not. So about 1 inch in between them all. That's a pretty tight fit, but that's okay. Then I'm going to brush the tops with my cream, and you can even put a little bit of sugar on top if you want to. And then they're gonna go in the oven at 375 for 15 to 20 minutes. What you're looking for at 15 to 20 minutes is that the outsides will start caramelizing. The outsides of the scones will start caramelizing. They'll be light brown. And then the inside doesn't look almost yellowish. The inside will be like it's set. It won't be shiny at all anymore. So 15 to 20 minutes, okay?